Hey guys, Glenn here. Today we're going over a very sad topic, which I'm not very happy to talk about, but it needs to be talked about. Getting your Etsy shop shut down. My friend just reached out to me that his Etsy shop has been permanently suspended. Now, when he said this to me, I said, "Whoa, that's crazy." I asked him what happened, and you're not going to believe it. But in this video, we're going to go over three things: what not to do if you own an Etsy shop or you ever want to own an Etsy shop; two, what my friend did to get his shop permanently suspended; and three, is there anything that he could do about it to get his shop back up and running again? Let's get into it. Now, before we get into the video, a lot of you subscribers have been asking for an update to the YouTube Etsy shop. So far, we're at an all-time 498,000 total views, 264,000 visits, almost just under 5,000 orders, and $94,800 in revenue. Now, back to the video. Now, I'm going to go over 5 things that can definitely get your shop suspended, and they're in the terms of service. However, I suggest looking at the terms of service because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a CPA, and I'm not an advisor. I'm just a dude on YouTube showing my experience with my Etsy shop. Your experience might be vastly different than mine, but I think if you avoid these 5 things, you're going to be much better off and hopefully avoid these terrible fates of getting your Etsy shop suspended. Now, number 1 on the list would be selling prohibited products like alcohol or tobacco, drugs, stuff like that. Believe it or not, there's a lot of things that they have to list. I can go over the list now. Some of the things that they list are animal and human remains, which I would hope that you wouldn't be selling that, but maybe taxidermy is one of them. You got to be careful. Hazardous materials, weapons, and recalled products. Of course, you don't want to get a bunch of recalled products for cheap and then resell them. You also can't sell any hate items. Any items that might promote, support, or glorify evidence or hate against any race or group. No illegal items or items promoting illegal activity. Nothing internationally regulated, or pornography or mature content. Mature content you technically can have, but you have to do it in a specific way. And I suggest you research it if you're going to put up things like toys. Now, you also can't resell handmade items, or really reselling any items for that matter. I've seen Etsy shops actually reselling other Etsy shop stuff at 5 times the markup. It is something that happens quite often, and you could not do it. Not only is it morally probably wrong, but Etsy does not allow anybody to buy wholesale items and resell them for a profit on Etsy. It has to be handmade by you or a partner, and everything's got to be transparent. Etsy might even go as far as to have you prove that you're actually making these with photos or video evidence. Another thing they can get you suspended, which is normally just a regular suspension, not permanent, is having a payment account extended. Now, this can happen if your credit card denies the charge, for instance, and then Etsy doesn't get their money, they're going to shut you down. Now, you can usually get it reinstated right away if you just pay the balance. A lot of people go through this. I see it on Facebook groups and stuff that they don't know why they got shut down, and then it was just a payment issue of $5, $10. So make sure you're all paid up. Now, another common reason that would shut down a lot of Etsy shops, that is if your account is associated with another banned account. Etsy is a very, very big business, and they rely on bots and robots for most of the stuff they do, I would imagine. So if they see the same IP address triggering over and over and over again bans, if you're on that IP address, you're going to get suspended or banned as well. This can happen just from using a VPN, which is why VPNs are not suggested for when you go on your Etsy shop, because they might link the two and ban your Etsy shop too, just because some other person using the same VPN IP did something that they weren't supposed to do. Also, if you have, let's say your husband or your wife has an Etsy shop as well, if they get their Etsy shop shut down, you're probably next, because you're using the same IP address and you guys are affiliated in the same actual address. I see this quite often. So if you're doing business with anybody in your home, or if they have their own Etsy shop, make sure they're on the up and up, because you might suffer the consequences as well. Now, let's not forget about probably the most notorious thing on Etsy is infringing on trademarks. If you ever seen Disney stuff on Etsy, there's a good chance that they don't even have a right to sell that kind of stuff. So when you go to create a handmade product and sell it on Etsy, You want to make sure that you have the rights to sell that. I go through some of that in my other videos, but again, I'm not a lawyer. And it takes extensive knowledge to make sure that you're not infringing on someone's rights and making sure that you have the right to sell that product. Disney is most likely not going to be your partner. They are big, very big, and they don't really want nothing to do with your $10. But they do shut down shops all the time. Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, pretty much any of that stuff you just can't touch because they might not catch up to you right now, but they probably eventually will. And that goes for anything. The NFL is notorious. Jeep. In fact, I actually was selling something that I didn't know any better that said Jeep on it. Now, just by it saying Jeep on it, it got my listing shut down. And I learned my lesson from that. If you can avoid doing any kind of trademark that you don't have the rights to, you're going to be better off for it and not get a strike against your account. Now, there's two different kinds of suspensions on Etsy. There's temporary and permanent. I'm going to go over what happened to my friend. We'll call him John. And what he did to get his Etsy shop shut down. Now, John reached out to me and said, Glenn, I have a big problem. Etsy shut down my Etsy shop. I don't know what to do. He said they suspended my Etsy shop because I have too many open orders. They weren't very clear in the initial suspension email, so I filed an appeal to get more info and to see what I did wrong and how it could be reinstated, but they just denied it. Now my Etsy shop's closed permanently, which is completely unfair. Do you think there's a chance that I can create a new account and sell on Etsy again? I said, that's crazy. How many orders were late? He said 50 to 75 late with, get this. This is the kicker right here. Wait for it. 1,050 open orders. You had 50 to 75 late, which I guess he just lost count because they were becoming so late. So let's just say it was like 70 late and over 1,000 open orders, which I can only assume he's not going to get to that. But I said, wow, that's a lot of late orders. How late are they? And he said a few days. He said I also had buyers complaining about my 14-day wait time, but that's the shop policy, so I don't think that has anything to do with it. I said, are you sure it's a permanent suspension? He said, yes, a permanent suspension. They will not respond to my follow-up emails. He said these orders totaled $30,000 to $35,000 that he had open, which is a lot of risk for Etsy. So it's understandable, but usually Etsy puts you on a mandatory vacation mode. I've never been put on it because I don't think I've ever had a late item, but I make sure to adjust my time accordingly, that if I, for instance, am going away for 2 weeks, I extend it out, you know? Or if I all of a sudden get 100 orders in one day, I make sure that I extend my processing times or up the shipping price or up the price of the items, which we'll go into that in another video about how to put a brake on your business when you need to. But by the way, if you want to see videos like that, remember to subscribe. He understands he's a huge liability for Etsy, but he thinks it's unfair. So I can't be the judge here. We are all at Etsy's mercy here. We're using their platform, and I'm thankful that they do let us sell on their platform because I've made a lot of money on it. I feel really bad for John, and I wanted to get an answer for him. So I did some research. One problem is Etsy is never really specific. When they give you a permanent suspension, sometimes they just say, see you later. We don't want you to sell here anymore. They don't even tell you what you did sometimes. There's a few things to try to turn this around. Let's get into it. Now, if your shop was temporarily suspended, you can contact Etsy by going here to help.etsy.com, go to Selling on Etsy, and then click on My Account is Suspended. Right down here, you can file an appeal, which my friend already did, but for those of you that might be looking at this video because you have a suspended account, if it's temporarily suspended, file your appeal. Just make sure you have all your ducks in a row before you do so, as well as read all these bullets here because it's going to give you important information that you're going to need to know. Now, if they do happen to suspend your shop, you're going to know by a couple things. One, you can't buy or sell. Two, there should be at least an email in your email telling you why, hopefully, or there's a temporary suspension. A lot of people don't get any specific answer. And then you'll also have a banner up above on top of your shop saying that it's temporarily or permanently suspended. Now, it really sucks because you're not going to be able to do anything with your shop. You can't issue refunds. You can't see your new or old orders. You can't see really anything if you're suspended. And that sucks for you and the customer because the customer is not going to get the product that they wanted. However, I understand that Etsy needs to protect themselves and the customer ultimately to make sure that some people that just can't handle the business, which in this case it seemed like he was expanding too fast, and I got overwhelmed, that should, in my opinion, be a temporary suspension, not a permanent suspension. Maybe there's something he's not telling me. I don't know. But from what he's telling me, you would think it would just be a temporary suspension so he can catch up with his orders, or at least put him on vacation mode for a week or two and give him a chance to make up for it. However, that's not what they did. So I tried to look up his shop and it's not there anymore. It just goes to a dead page, which is unfortunate because he put a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears in that thing. Now he's filed his appeal and he's gotten the answer that no, we're not going to reopen it. And then they don't open the emails anymore. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to ignore you. Now, I did a lot of research here, and the only thing that I can find, besides for trying to find the CEO of Etsy and actually talking to him, which I don't think he's going to want to talk to you, once you file one appeal on your permanent suspension, if you are unsuccessful and they do not unsuspend your account, you cannot open an Etsy account ever again. There's nothing you can do, and you are SOL. I'm sorry, John. Sorry this happened to you. I don't like to see this kind of stuff because I have my YouTube channel so that people can learn from what I do, my mistakes and my successes, and it really sucks to see someone not be able to sell on Etsy anymore, which they had such a passion for it like I do. So as far as I can see, you don't have a chance. Now, if it's that important to you, you can not give up and try to contact people within Etsy, but I'm pretty sure that their policy is pretty solid, and it's just there's so many people. One thing if Etsy wasn't a huge platform as they are, but they simply don't have the time to go over so many times with somebody with suspension. Even people that were suspended for no reason by accident and then filed appeal and were unsuccessful in reopening their case are permanently suspended from buying or selling on Etsy as well forever, and they didn't even do anything wrong. There's actually cases of that. So this is unfortunate, but by making this video, I hope that I can show some people that this can happen to you and give you a couple ideas on what not to do so that it doesn't happen. This is one case. There's a lot of different things that can get your Etsy shop shut down. It's not just limited to this video. You really got to do your own research, and Etsy will usually warn you when things start getting out of hand. You start getting late. It'll tell you that it'll be late. Too many infringements. They even say we'll shut down your whole shop if you infringe too many times on a top banner. I've infringed on someone's rights not knowing, or maybe they just claimed against me, but I didn't want to fight it. So you learn from your mistakes, and hopefully whoever's watching this video can learn from your mistakes before it's too late, and you do something that's too far, and you grow too big, like I think John did. I think he grew too fast and couldn't support the customers that he had, because that's a lot of orders and the valuable lesson for all of us to learn. Anyway, I hope I helped someone out with this. Thank you guys so much for watching. Watch this video next if you want to make money with your 3D printer.